everybody, welcome to another edition of the Creators Outlet. Just for our podcast only listeners, to see any of the images we're going to be showing off tonight, just go to Creators Outlet on YouTube. Please subscribe, comment, and share. And then you can watch the video portion there. We appreciate you listening and downloading the podcast, though. And our special guest tonight is Mr. Joe Ball. Hello.
Hello, good sir. How are you doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. It's it's a good Friday, other than what we were talking about in the pre-show. So you've been at this a little bit, huh?
Yeah. In terms of just being an artist, basically right out of high school, I went right into working. So I've been at it since I was 18. I'm almost 40 now. I'm, a little less than a year away. So pretty much the last 18 to 20 years, I've been doing this nonstop. Even owned a few comic shops at one point. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you've done a little bit of everything in the business.
Yeah, I get the retail, I get the consumer side because I've been buying comics and other collectibles ever since I was a little feller, and I've basically had my foot in every aspect of it that I could, and partially that was just due to necessity. The mainstream didn't want me, so I was like, well, if all I can do to be involved is indie work and run a shop, then I'll do that. And eventually I was like, yeah, we're not doing the shop any longer. So ruled that out. You literally fall into a groove where you might as well be working in Walmart. Just because it's yours doesn't make it any more fun. You just have a little more control over what the money's being spent on. That's it.
Yeah. It's got to be, you have to have the right area and the right audience and everything. And the buyers and sellers,
Yeah, we
just
did
come and go. So
me and my business partner Shane Mess, he's the same guy I own King Toad Studios with, our studio here in Ohio. We had two shops at one point, but it just got to a point where it was even though we would literally go nuts in Diamond, which is probably our own fault, to make sure people had a huge selection, everything from the smallest of creators to the biggest. We had walls filled with new issues every month. We were really on it, but people just did not want them. And this was in 2010 and 11 when we started. And even then, the writing was on the wall. You would have mega events from DC and Marvel, and nobody was buying the stuff. It got to a point where I was like, why are we buying 10 copies of Final Crisis? We can't even move 2. Nobody wants this crap. So,
and that was actually a good read too.
It had good writing. It's just what's his name's artwork on it was not up to par, even though he was a good artist. Dude that draws Hawkman now, I think that Brian. I can't remember his last name. But
I can't remember his last name either because that's canceled.
He did the Ultimate.
Hitch.
Yes,
Brian Hitch. Yeah.
It was just his style did not lend itself to a book where none of the New Gods were drawn like the New Gods. The characters riding on the giant dogs looked like literally someone traced some Dalmatians. It was just not. There was no dynamics. It was just bare minimum, hey, let's just drop this in the real world. It's nobody wants to see the real world. This is comic books. We want it to be exciting and fun and dynamic, not a snooze fest.
Oh, so it looked a lot like a Sundom Marvel Zombies issue.
No, even Marvel Zombies was more entertaining than Final Crisis, unfortunately, at least to look at. But, oh well. Anyways, that's water under the bridge.
It is what it is. Yeah, It was going crazy, and it was just a pissing contest, after the 90s with Marvel and DC of let's see who can throw the most shit at the wall and see what sticks. And
yeah,
it's we don't need 37 Spider-Man comics or 19 Batman comics. We just need one or two good ones.
Yes, yeah.
But
quality over quantity for sure.
Yeah. It's
Deadpool got to that point too. I can't tell you how many different Deadpool titles we had on the shelf, and it was unfortunate because that was right about the time people stopped caring about 10,000 Deadpool comics.
Yeah.
So the timing was just, it was partially we opened a shop when certain trends were fading, and there was nothing really taking its place yet except pops and magic cards, which have been solid since day one. So
yeah,
but it is what it is, you know.
Yeah. And we're here at death.
Yes. Yes,
Dude, this is very impressive.
Oh, well, thank you, man. It's my labor of love. It's a culmination of everything I've been inspired by and all the things I think are cool and interesting, and I'm trying to package them in a way that hopefully the rest of the world will agree with me.
So 6 days left. Is this your final arc on this, or do you have a re-up?
This is just my first 30 days, so yeah,
okay.
I'll probably extend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, and after that, I'll go in demand. I've got my fulfillment dates late 2022, so I'm gonna push this thing as much as I can in between. Because honestly, I need every dime I can get out of it. So.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty sizable book.
Yeah, it's a hefty one.
300 plus pages.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that price, you know, I'm surprised there's only 151 backers and not like 351 backers already.
Well, you know, I think it's a mishmash of things. Like people have been seeing my work in CG for 4 years now.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm new to it. Everyone knows who I am. It's just a matter of, I think people are backing so many projects, and the times are very uncertain. Like you really can't even predict a week ahead right now, because we're being kept in a state of unstableness in this country. So it's making, well, on the world scale, but it's making people, I think, a little hesitant and a little more careful. But they are getting behind it. And it is a matter of me getting the word out. I know a lot of guys, they do these YouTube blitzes for like 3 and 4 days straight, just nonstop all day. Unfortunately, I can't commit to that. So I have to do 2 to 4 shows a week. I got to kind of spread it out just because of life circumstance. You know, I've still got to draw comics for day job to make money outside of this. I've still got little children in diapers at home I have to keep up with. I still have a home to maintain. My wife works. You know, there's all those normal things everyone has to equate into their daily.
Yeah, so, the real world. I mean, adulting, right?
Yeah. It leaves a very small window of when I can do shows where people are actually going to have a chance at seeing them. You know, so basically I have from like 8 o'clock to midnight, 8 p.m. to midnight each day where I can try to work something in. And some days I can't even do that because we're so busy right now. It's one of those things where like I launched this and then a bunch of circumstance I did not foresee all happened like within like that same week. So it's been an adjustment, but you know, it's a slow burn. I've been showing artwork from this book for 3 years now. So I've accepted that everything's going to be gradual with this, and I'm content with that. I can live with it, you know.
Yeah, it's 300 plus pages, and how far along are you on the pages?
Well, I've been saying around 150, but I forgot I'd actually drawn like 6 pages last week, so I'm closer to 160 now.
So
I'm
that's
at
the
like,
halfway point. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's just online art. Now, bear in mind, that doesn't count color and lettering and someone to read through it and make sure the edits are all in place. Which edit's not a big deal. That doesn't take that much time, even though it's a sizable book. So I can just send it in, you know, chunks of like 10 and 20 pages to the editor so they're not overwhelmed. But the color, I'd say that's probably around 25 pages deep. Just because I've been doing it myself. But once I get some of this Indiegogo money hits the old business bank account, then I can actually hire out a flatter, and that will cut my time down by half. Because flatters can just bash through so much stuff that when it comes back to me, I can render out like 4 to 6 pages in a day for color. The render part's easy. It's those flats that eat up all the time.
Yeah, nobody likes doing that job.
No, they don't, because it's a miserable job. And imagine trying to flap my work. It's just made it double miserable for whoever's doing it. So,
oh my God. With all, it's just insane because every time, I've just been staring at like the opening frame from the video on the page, and every time I look at it, I see different things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in them. There's a lot of well, I'm trying to give this book like good reread value too, like where you catch and you notice things kind of after the fact that you didn't catch it first, or you'll go, oh, wait a minute, this happens later in the book. I bet this thing comes into play from earlier, and you can kind of go back and re-notice things that you may not have caught the first time.
Yeah, and at the very least, you can just, after the people get this and they read it a couple of times, they'll still be pulling it off their shelf just to look at the artwork.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. And that's not me trying to be an egomaniac. It's just I know what I'm putting into this, and I know what I'm giving people. It's a confidence thing. I'm just extremely confident in what I do.
Well, you've been doing it for 20 plus years, so
yeah,
getting there. We're gonna take a look at the trailer.
All right.
I've seen the trailer, but I want everybody else to see it.
Yep. It does have some flashing lights and loud sounds. Fair warning.
That's a pretty intense trailer, dude.
Oh, thank you. That's what I was going for. I wanted to barrage the old senses a little bit.
Metal.
Yeah, I recorded the music too. I've been playing guitar since I was like 14. Been playing drums since like my early 20s. So doing music and stuff like that's pretty easy too. I've already got the equipment laying around to record and do things. So there's a mix of luxuries I have in this process, even though it's a lot of work.
So you do all the cool kid jobs. Make comics, make music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had to do a lot of terrible jobs in between, without a doubt. I've worked at restaurants. I've worked at retail stores. I've done all the stuff everybody hates. It's just now I'm at a point where I'm, I don't have to settle or fall back. I pretty much know how to make my money.
Yeah. Been there, done that. And then I spent 30 years. I always wanted to DJ because I played some things, like I played keyboards, and I played like alto sax for a while.
Yeah.
Sadly, off the clarinet binge in one time at band camp, and a couple of other things I picked up. Wasn't very good at it, and I always wanted to DJ. And one day I just told the owner of the local skating rink that I was a DJ looking for work, and he hired me, and I DJ'd. And right when one of my best friends that worked at one of the local radio stations, and his girlfriend, who is now his wife of quite a number of years, walked in, I just happened to be playing AC/DC Back in Black on vinyl at the wrong speed.
Slow or fast?
Oh, way too fast.
Hey, I say the faster the better, but that's me.
Yeah, it was a death metal cover.
Yes. So
I never made that mistake again, and then I ended up getting jobs at the local gentle mini clubs, and I worked them for about 30 years.
Hey, you got to learn, and you got to get some experience somehow.
Yeah, and the sites weren't bad, and that was until 2016 when my health went to the toilet, and I ended up dying on the operating table and got put into a medical coma.
Good Lord.
And was pretty much no movement from the waist down. Took me a year and a half to get like even minimal mobility, so I can, scoot around like on a walker, like the old man from The Simpsons, and the rest of the time I'm in a wheelchair. So,
how are you doing these days?
well, I've been in and out of the hospital for like the last couple of weeks. No COVID.
That's good. Yeah.
But I'm partially getting cellulitis infections. That was one of the things I had back in 2016. I had cellulitis, sepsis, and acute fasciitis.
That's rough, man, because that can get out of hand really quick if you're not careful. My wife had that after our first baby, and she had to get put on a antibiotic drip at one point just to get it in check.
Yeah, they've got me on antibiotic pills right now, and I've got home nursing because I've got a wound behind my knee, so it's in a spot that isn't quite able to take any kind of medical packing to help it heal up. So
yeah, it's definitely a very touchy, sensitive spot that's got to be really tough to deal with.
So I got nurses, coming in and out, and other than that, I got this streaming like 5 or 6 times a week, and talking to awesome creators like you and finding out more about everybody's projects. Crying a little bit in my spilled milk afterwards because I wish I had enough money to back everybody's project that I have on. But
well, we all do, man. There's even some of my friends in CG I haven't got around to backing their current projects yet, and it sucks. But I know the time will come when I can get to them. I just have to kind of spread it out and do it when I can. I think everyone's kind of in that spot where we're doing the best we can to support while keeping our own heads above water as well.
Yeah, it's like I try to tell everybody, if you supported this book, thank you. If you haven't, please consider it. And at the very least, if you have supported it, one way or the other, whether it's by word of mouth or just, sharing it out on your social media just to let other people see it is a huge help.
Yep. Every little bit does help. There's no part of this that a creator can really take for granted, especially in CG where we have an unprecedented audience built into something where you can get your stuff seen quick. So this never existed before, and we know this. Like, you had to bank on whoever came into a comic book shop, and nowadays you don't have to hope that someone walks by it and takes a look in a comic shop. They've got a full IGG page where they can look over everything, really think about it, and decide if it's something they want to support or not. And it's great because these opportunities just didn't exist in the past.
Yeah, and it's a plethora of like amazing talent in this CG community. So I haven't had an active pull list. I've got a couple of things through a shop, but all the mainstream stuff that I've been buying for years, like I'm done with it.
Yeah, same here. Like, I'll pick up some stuff, through Amazon or through direct from the creators and whatnot. But most of what I buy now is either old stuff that I like that I can get in collected volumes, because I frankly just don't have the space for long boxes at this point in life. I used to have probably like 12 or 14 long boxes easily, and I've just slowly given all of it away to friends and people I know, and just saved the things I was sentimental about. But
yeah, I've got about 150 boxes between long and short.
They add up quick, man. It doesn't take much. Like, people don't realize like how quick it can add up if you're not a comic book collector.
It's like, how am I out of boxes? I just bought 3. Then you realize you've got like 3 piles stacked up 4 feet high on an end table next to your recliner that you actually finished reading, and now you need to put them away so you can open up more stuff.
Yeah, but it's just the nature of it. I had a friend of mine here where I live. He had a he bought this whole giant shelf setup from IKEA. It was really cool. It looked pretty nice too, and it was just filled with long boxes. And he almost collected exclusively at this point DC books, and he just had an amazing DC collection. And he still had just piles that there was just nowhere to put them yet, because he was getting a huge monthly pool. This was back in like 2012, and I don't even want to know where it's at by now. He probably has to dedicate a whole room in his house to it at this point. But
back then, I would go in, because I was making pretty good money, and I would go in and drop probably like a couple of $100 a week at my LCS.
Yeah,
it was like, well,
even when I owned a shop, because I would buy from my own store. Obviously, I wasn't gonna like cut it short and just be taking books home. But I was spending way too much money because there was so much of it right at my disposal. I was like, this is a problem. Every time a guy brings in like a box of Transformers he wants to sell, I buy them. Every time we get a shipment of comics in, I'm like, picking out at least 5 to 10 of them for myself. And
I deal with like 2 shops myself right now. My LCS that I've been going to since I found it when I was like 15 is my main shop where I had my pull list. And I'll buy, if he's got them in stock, I'll buy all my supplies through him. And I'll buy back issues and trades, and if there's a certain like hardcover collection I'm looking for, I'll see if he's got it and I'll buy it off of him, because I'd rather, support, friends in the local community and, local comic shops than, order it like on eBay through somebody I don't know. At least, I know what I'm getting with, certain people. So, and there's another shop that I buy through, and they're one of those shops, like you said, you guys were, you basically ordered like, everything, but they do like sidewalk sales every week in front of their store, and, push books out, take books in, and buy some nice collections. And they're at like, now that conventions are back in this area, they're at like every single convention too. So
we got so tired of trying to get rid of the inventory that we turned my business partner's basement basically into a inventory hold spot for the leftover stuff, and just like that's what we use for people's gifts for like 2 years. I'd be like, my little nephews need some birthday presents. I'm gonna go sift around your basement. Because everything was still packaged, it was still new. So we'd go down there and just grab some leftovers up from the stores and divvy it out to friends and family whenever we needed gifts, and that worked out well for a couple years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it made life easier. I could be like, look at all this crap I don't want, but other people love. So
yeah, that, and you could have just like grabbed a box and handed out comics on Halloween.
I mean, we did. We hooked up a lot of friends of ours. I had one pal where we're just like, hey man, you want some comic books? And he was like, sure. So we went over to his house and dropped off like 3 or 4 long boxes. Like, you just have them. We don't even care what's in it. We just got to get rid of this stuff.
Wow.
It's taking up so much room. So we were just giving stuff away to get it out of our hair. We sold off, boxes of manga for like dirt cheap. Just basically got our money back on it to some of the locals. And it was what it was. You get detached from things once you're selling too much of it and seeing it too much. It's not as special anymore. So now I'm kind of like, my heart's back in it. It's special to me again, but for a good like 5 or 6 years, it was just stuff in my way,
Yeah, I know the detached feeling. I remember seeing certain kind of like cool, like, collector nerd presents that I had given to my friend that owned the shop. And every once in a while I go in, and something I had given him like 15 years ago that he forgot who gave it to him is up on the shelf with a price tag on it. And I'm like, happens. In the back of my head, I'm like, that's it, buddy. From now on, you get exactly what you love. Dunkin' Donuts gift cards. And and that was that was pretty much that. Like my LCS doesn't buy collections off anybody. Matter of fact, they just moved to like a smaller place, and he's like selling like 3 like big comic book like angled shelves that are, won't fit in the new spot. And I'm like, but he's got 5 of my 6-foot bookshelves that used to be at the house I was renting when I went into the coma. And I'm like, 6 months ago, I go, oh, dude, I really need my bookshelves back. I got no place to put anything, so I'm at a standstill for like, just shifting stuff around in my loft, because there's like comic books everywhere, there's toys everywhere, and I'm like, I got no place to put this stuff. I need bookshelves so I can stack it up there.
Well, organization is key to this stuff. It's a lot more fun when it can be neat.
Yeah. And, once it gets there, then people can start saying, oh, he's streaming from work again. Look, he's in the warehouse. Because I have a loft in one of those factory apartment complexes.
Yeah.
So, it's nice. My daughter's got her room. I got my room. And then we have 2,300 square feet, open area. So
not too shabby.
I like it.
Yeah, well, some of those loft spaces in the factories where they've renovated them out are pretty cool. Like I spent a little time in Cleveland. I hate it. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Cincinnati boy, but they had some beautiful places up there that were pretty reasonably priced. That were basically factories that they renovated out into these cool loft apartments, and they were pretty slick. They were very modern, very nice. Yeah, I was a little jealous of some of them, to be honest.
This used to be a curtain factory outlet in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
And there's an inlet off the bay that comes into the river in this town, and it meets with, so it's like salt and fresh mixed.
Yes.
And the boats actually used to come up the river and stop like right out in front of our place, like about 20, 30 feet down the river. And there was like a docking area, which is a building that they just recently tore down because it was just, dilapidated. It was, a few hundred years old, and it was just falling apart.
Yeah.
So they just tore it down, but that's where the boat used to stop and dock, and they would unload like, all the linen supplies and, the metals that they would use to make it, and barrels of dye and everything else. And they would just haul it up, on pallets and forklifts into the main building. So I just thought it was, kind of cool and interesting, but I've got these big giant ceilings behind me, so.
Well, yeah, dude, that's kind of environment that it can even if times are tough, it can make things a little easier. So you can look out, kind of take your mind off things and see the water, and just enjoy your space a little more than if you're crammed into like an apartment complex.
Yeah, it's 3 floors of factory, and there's some business offices on the first floor. But I can go out front, and there's like some picnic tables and a small like jungle gym area for the smaller kids.
Yeah.
And hang off the water, and and the only thing to get used to is the backyard is the freight yard for the local freight train. So 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 and 6. I wonder how I know that.
Yeah, you're living by that maritime timing.
Yeah, it's it's like the train wakes me up. I go, damn train. Oh, gotta go to the bathroom. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is just amazing. I like this is the cover. This is going to be the cover of the book.
No, that's just a promotional image. I had done this Akira Toriyama kind of rip-off styled version, like what if the characters were an anime cartoon? And this was just something I did for fun like 2 or 3 years ago. And a colorist friend of mine, Jaro, on Twitter, he asked if he could just throw some colors on it. I said, sure. And then he made it into this cool, movie poster looking kind of thing. And I got such a good reaction to it that I was like, well, we'll put it up. It's going to go in the book, like as gallery art. But
Nice.
I'll probably use it for like posters and things like that down the road once I can, keep my brain wrapped around other things at the same time. I'm just a little too busy to take on all that. But yeah, it was just fun images. The hardbacks will just say death, death, death really big on the cover. There will be no actual artwork on the cover of the hardbacks. The manga will have a color cover. So just some of the slight differences.
Very cool. Yeah, 'cause you have 3 editions. You have the black and white line art, the full color, and the manga edition.
Yep. Those are the 3 being offered. The only thing outside of that is I just offer them in combo packs if somebody wants the 2 hardbacks or the hardbacks and the manga. So I have that option for folks that want all 3. But yeah, keeping it simple this first round. It's a 300-page book, so I really don't have any option in it. I can't take on too much else right now.
Yeah, I mean, the 300 pages. That's,
It's a ton of work. It's about a year. If you're a monthly artist, that's about a year's worth of work. So it's definitely a lot to get done. The only luxury I have is I started on this a few years ago in between paid gigs. So I've been able to amass about half of the work in that time. And now I've only got one other big project I'm doing in between, and it's a book with Yellow Flash. So
nice.
Yeah, it's going to be more manga styled, so it's not going to be what people are used to seeing from me. There will still be touches of it, like the backgrounds will still have the detail and stuff, but it's drawn very much to look like an Asian comic book rather than a Western comic.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, but it makes my life a little easier. It's something I can do in a reasonable amount of time and not get overwhelmed. Where Death is such an intense book that even though I know what I'm doing, so I can blast through a lot easier than I do paid work because there's nobody's telling me to make changes or adjustments or do this or do that. It's solely my control. So it does move a lot faster than paid gigs, but it's still very detail intense. So it does take a little time to get through some of those pages depending on what I'm working on.
Oh yeah, it's very everything I've seen just on the campaign pages, super labor intensive. So
the only luxury I really have in that is so much of what you see is like it's techniques I've been doing for years. Mm-hmm. So some things look super hard and they're not, and other things probably look easy and those were not easy. It's kind of a role reversal from what people would think. So it's one of those kind of books where you could say, oh, God, I bet it took all day to draw all those rocks. I'm like, no, I've drawn 10 zillion rocks. That was the easy part. The hard part was making the guy's body look right when he was jumping or, something like that. So
how long has this story been going around in your head?
Well, I'd say in some infancy stage of the story, it's been floating around in my head for about 4 or 5 years. And some people have seen artwork that goes back even farther than that, but it wasn't really a story then as much as it was like, I've got some character ideas, but I don't know what to do with them yet. Like I've got some interesting looks and interesting things that are visually interesting, but it doesn't add up to a story. It's just that it's neat to me. So I had eventually got to a point, I'd say probably like 2.5, 3 years ago, where I really I buckled down and was like, this has to be a cohesive story. I've got to find a way to make the beats and the themes work in a way that makes sense and isn't silly or has too many loose ends or so much mystery that you feel left unfulfilled. That's why I went with 300 pages too, because I knew like I've got about 8 to 10 volumes in mind, and I need each one to feel like its own story, even though it's all connected. So that's kind of how I approached it. Was if no matter which book you get, at least you'll get one that it has a beginning, middle, and an end, but it's just open-ended just enough for the next one to come into play. But you don't need the next one to still enjoy the one you have, So it's kind of like you can watch Empire Strikes Back and never watch Return of the Jedi. Empire is that good that if you never see Return of the Jedi, you still have a very fond memory of Empire. So it's very much like that. And I'm giving people a full season. Like if you're looking at it in TV terms, rather than like a 48 pager that's the equivalent to like 2 episodes, I'm trying to give people that one full complete season, that one full block where you can really enjoy it for a while until I can get that next book ready to go.
Oh yeah, it's a smart way to go. And the first thing that flashed into my head as soon as you said like 8 to 10 volumes is, wow, this is your Berserker.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, there's the obvious influence and homage stuff in this too, Berserk. But my favorite stuff has longevity and it has quality for a long period of time, whether it's the same creative team or whatever. And that's one of the great things about Berserk is, yeah, he had some assistants the last like 5 or 6 years, but prior to that was one guy drawing, writing, coming up with all that. And granted, it was broke down into shorter segments when it was serialized in Japan. But I mean, he was still pumping it out like weekly for a long time. Like 20 pages a week is insane to do the work to do the detail level and the writing that Berserk was. So I'm obviously giving myself a good bit of difference in time compared to what he had, but I also don't have a team of assistants. I don't have a whole bunch of people helping me, so I just had to do a slow burn. I've had friends of mine and other creators telling me to launch this for the last like 2 years. And I'm like, I would love to, but I can't, because it's going to be so long before people get it. And even in this case, I gave myself a huge amount of leeway just in case. So I just pray to God that prices aren't dramatically different by time, October, September of 2022. So a lot of what I'm doing is based off of what the costs are of things right now. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this page that I've got up on the screen, and it looks amazing. I'm partial to blue, but it still looks amazing. And that bottom panel there is killer. But then we just look at your line art for it, just the black and white version of that same last panel. There's a whole nother level of crazy in that guy's face.
Yeah, you can really see things differently. And that's kind of why I did that. Because while I'm one of those guys where I don't mind color canceling out line work in a way, like letting the color do its job and be what makes everything polished and finished looking, because I'm all about the best looking product at the end of the day. I knew that the line art held its own weight in this, and I didn't want to deny people being able to see the lengths I went to with ink before I even got to the color. And a lot of people just really wanted a line art edition. So I was like, well, we're going to do a black and white line art. We'll do our grayscale manga for the manga people, and it'll fit on their shelf nice. And a color one for people that are just, it's the colors for the people that are used to Western comics.
And I'm just like, I don't know why everybody wouldn't want all 3 versions, because they're all going to be the same read, but they're all going to be immensely different looking books.
Yeah, and I think it will give people a different feel too, because the black and whites will leave a little bit up to the imagination, and your emotional base will be based off of the images you see just in line art. The color is all mood coloring, so it can change how you feel about certain situations just based on that. And then the manga is all grayscaled, so you've got 3 different sets of moods that different things could create depending on which book you read.
Yeah, I mean, this looks amazing. And then when this page goes like all red. It's like an entirely different page.
I agree, and I kind of go for a certain amount of that to on purpose. You know, I intentionally, like, nothing's really literal colored unless it just falls into the palette I'm using for a certain chunk of pages. Like I approached all this with mood coloring because I had to develop a style of color that allowed me to move quick. And the only way I could do it was I had to basically take and put strict rules on how I was going to approach the color. And I said, I'm going to pick a palette for each chunk of story, and I'm going to stick with that no matter what, because I know it will work. Because it always does. If you have, you know, your 5 to 6 colors that all match each other and look good together, you can use that for a 6 or 8 page segment of story, and it will just look beautiful when you're done. Even though your urges will be to do things literal, it gives you just a better overall look and a more original feel. So that's the approach I'm taking with it, and so far it's working out pretty good for me.
And this is the grayscale
Yep.
manga version.
Yep, that's
that
what
same
the manga.
page. Yeah.
Yep.
I like it. I just got in the hardcover because I mean I grew up when I was like, you know, around my daughter's age. We were watching like the old Force 5 cartoons, Star Blazers, Captain Harlock.
Yeah.
And I just got Captain Harlock Classic Volume 1, the manga edition in hardcover. So I've been reading that. And I'm like, oh, and then, you know, of course, everybody's like, "You're weaving, no!" Shut up! Well, I'm not B Rose yet.
The catch is, it's not anyone's fault that the Japanese just do 90% of entertainment better than the rest of us. The only thing they really lack in is live action film. They don't do that as well as the States, but outside of that one thing, they basically make better video games, better cartoons, better comics. Just it's just a different world over there because art's part of the culture.
Yeah.
And it's not looked down upon the way it is here. It's I mean, the government sponsors some of the biggest manga competitions in the world. That's how much they care about it, that the government's like, no, nobody's fucking with manga. This is ours. So
yeah, it's just and here in the reds and the whites are just like, you know, blowing off the page. Well,
I love glowy stuff too. Like I like things that add light where there isn't any light really. So that's something I almost have to try to like rein myself in with, because I will get really carried away with it if I'm not careful. But yeah, I like things I just like lighting. I like things that feel like they glow and you can see the light bouncing off of everything.
Yeah, like I can almost hear sound effects off this page.
Yeah. Which is great, because I really wanted this to be animated originally. But that process was just so difficult for me to do on my own, because I wanted sounds. I wanted you to hear the crickets in the air in the woods. I wanted you to hear leaves rustling. I wanted you to hear intense music during high action or high emotional scenes. I can't do that with a comic, so I'm getting as close to it as I possibly can, and hoping people's imaginations fill in the gaps.
Well, my problem is anytime I'm reading a book that's this intensive, you know, like on this page, it would either be, you know, the music that would be playing in the back of my head would, you know, either be out of Star Wars or Star Trek, you know, maybe Battlestar Galactica,
maybe
the original, maybe.
Hey, you know, Paul from Bonanza was in Battlestar Galactica, so we'll cut us some slack.
You know, it's not bad.
Who can't love Lauren Green? He's a saint.
I mean, come on, he fed the dogs.
Yeah. But yeah, the book, it's just to get into the story a little bit. The beats of it basically are, it's about a family unit, a mother, a father, and a child. They're on the run from their former tribe because they're kind of like savages. And you know, they're very wild creatures. It's not that they're dumb like animals, but the bulk of them are. You know, it's the smart ones kind of you know who the leaders are and why they're the leaders, because their intelligence excels the bulk of the group. And they live on this planet, and this planet, even though it looks like Earth, it's the place where God sent all the creatures that were too big and too consuming for Earth, like your Leviathans and your Behemoth and your dinosaurs and any other random creature I just feel like making up. So that's kind of the premise of where this takes place at, is it starts on Earth during the biblical flood, so that you get to know who the human-esque characters are, the Atlantians, and then it quickly transfers you over to the planet where God has placed the creatures just not fit for Earth. And that's the premise of where it all kicks off from. And there's one other side group. There's basically three fractions. There's the tribal savages, which is your very naturey savage group of people that are violent and extreme. You've got your techie ones, which are the Atlantians, and then you've got your in-between, like your kind of your Masters of the Universe characters, where technology meets magic and the supernatural. Mm-hmm. And those are kind of like the original natives of the planet that want it back. So you've got all three of these colliding, and the family unit's kind of stuck in the middle of all of this collision. So that's what the story will focus around, is the bad times creating strong people, and the family unit being the ones that are trying to survive the circumstances they've been dealt by other people, where they had nothing to do with it, really.
There's a lot of blood on this page.
Yeah, well, that's just to give people a little taste. You know, it's like the book's not gratuitously gory. Like it's not there just for fun. It all has like a point and a reason. But the title is Death, Death, Death. So I had to give people a little taste.
Yeah, there's going to be some death involved.
Yeah. Well, it's a war book in a lot of ways too. You know, it's half a setup so that you know what's going on, and then it's the other half's really where the war kicks off, and that aspect of it, and it will continue to be a war book for a good chunk of the volumes.
I just love this imagery with kind of like the smoke going off the head.
Thank you. Yeah, well, this is like when I had got back working like full time on this again, after I had wrapped up a few other gigs I had to finish. I was sitting back down with it, and I was looking at the beginning, and I was like, I'm a little bored right now. Like, I've been doing this for so long that I got to refine and fix some things in the beginning, but I feel like there needs to be something else. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put 2 pages in the beginning that will have context later in the book, but just to set you up, to entice you to go, what led to this page that we're looking at now. So that was kind of the thing, where it's giving you a blip into the future of what's going to happen later in the book, and you're kind of just seeing where things are going to end up, and then you get to watch the mystery play out to see what led us to a point where there's giant robot heads with tiny people walking in front of them, why there's dinosaurs with their heads blown off, why there's strange looking robotic creatures that don't seem to be on each other's side despite looking similar, why there's organic mechs, all that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Okay, this is my favorite panel on the campaign page. This is just completely badass.
Well, thank you, man. That's one of my favorite characters. I can't wait to be able to get into him more as the book goes on, because I think he's going to really be a fan favorite character despite being a villain. We like villains. We can be honest about it.
Yeah,
everyone loves Darth Vader, and I mean, Darth Vader was a terrible human being. We still love him.
Yeah, it's just it's like, my father was a Jedi. Your father was a child murderer.
Yes. Yeah, but this is General Red Nova. So he is he's basically one of the top military commanders in the villain's army. So that's kind of the role he'll play, as one of the key villains. And you'll get little taste of his backstory throughout too. Like, I'm not giving every inch of every character away, but I'm definitely there will be tidbits of flashbacks and things like that, so that some questions are answered, and you can grow some attachment to these characters.
Yeah, some hints to keep reeling people in deeper and deeper to the lore and the story.
Yeah, because I mean, with any good story, it's even with the Darth Vader reference again. We had ideas of what led to him being some guy in some scary looking suit, but we never knew the exact details of it. So that's kind of how I'll play this. You'll get tidbits and you'll get hints and you'll get little flashbacks to kind of show what's led to the point we're at, but I don't want to give every single bit of it away immediately. It'll kind of come together as the story progresses, as it needs to be told.
Yeah, just the imagery of just this single panel is just so intense.
Well, thank you, man. That's a lot of what I'm going for with this. I really want to. I personally am at a point in life where I've seen enough pop culture to where I've slimmed down what I truly care about, and I think if you really want people to care about something long term, it A, has to be interesting, B, has to be visually interesting and fun, and the story has to have payoff. And if you can make all that stuff meet, you've got a timeless product that will outlast me. If I can get through all 10 volumes in the next 10 or 12 years, I really think I've made my stamp on the industry and in storytelling at that point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I just can't get. I've stared at this image for like hours, like the whole time you were on with Shay and Cy the other day, which was more than entertaining. Let me tell you.
They're good friends. So yeah, I've known them for a while.
But I mean, the helm with the horns and the face and the cape. He's got a cape and a sword and armor. I'm like, ugh.
Well, yeah, he gives you a little bit of that. You can tell he's in a world where there's technology, but he's still carrying a sword. He's a mixed bag. I wish I could tell people more about him, because I want to so bad, because I know how cool it is, but I know not to give too much away either.
We'll find out plenty next year.
Yeah. And this image here was kind of like I was sitting around one night working on some pages, and I thought, I want one culmination image that sums up like a good chunk of the book. It doesn't tell you everything, but it kind of shows off at least our key players in the first third of the book. So I've been trying really hard to put together cool designs and cool things that illustrate metaphorically how intense things will get, even though some of this stuff may not literally happen in the book. They might not all be literally stuck to a ball of eyeballs and faces, but it gives you an idea of the weird levels to expect in the book. So I do go for uncomfort and weird, but it's not always in a gross way. It's just imagery that makes you uneasy without you really knowing why, because nothing disturbing's happening.
Yeah, this comes off as something that I would see like back in the day, and at the like a title page to one of the stories in like a heavy metal magazine or something like that.
Yeah.
And a little more intense with the mood color.
Mm-hmm.
A little scarier.
Yeah, well, that's what's fun about color. You can achieve completely different things once color comes into the picture. So I know some artists are really weird about color and about stuff people coloring over their line art. I'm just not like that, because I've been coloring over my own line art for so long that if it benefits the art to lose some lines, then that's just the case when it comes to color. I like color, I'm one of those people where I like everything. So it's hard for me to even personally live with just a color or just a line art version. So I had to put it all out there, partially to satisfy myself, because I've been working for other people for 20 years. This thing here, this is 100% my way or the highway. So it will fail or succeed solely on my back. and I'm doing it exactly the way I want. And that's just how it's going to work.
It's a perfect way to do it, too.
Well, some people need constructive criticism. They need someone to guide them along a little bit. I've done this for so long now that, like, I know when something sucks or when it's not good enough. I know if the way I'm trying to connect a portion of the story from one event to the next, if it's just filler or if it's something really slick and clever that actually makes sense and comes off good. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like I've had constructive criticism my whole life. I don't need it any longer on the scale that I did when I was a young artist. And I mean, I still take it from people. I'll still ask, friends and other qualified individuals what they think of things. But ultimately, it's going to be what I want at the end of the day, either way.
Oh, yeah. It's cool to see that image that was underneath the lettering that your friend colored there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's he did such a good job on it, too. It's so fun, So that's some of that kind of stuff. People want to see more of that, too. So someday I might do a little bit more with a manga side of things in terms of making it look like literally like an anime cartoon jumping out of the screen onto the page, but we'll cross those bridges later.
And here's the opening panel to the video, and this is just so intense.
Well, you've got the angel coming through the clouds on the page prior, and this is what led up to that. This would be the page right after that. So, and there's probably like 5 or 6 more pages to this where it's just our characters being introduced through this giant angel creature. Because this book's filled with deities, demons, angels. The supernatural is just as prevalent and relevant as any technology would be. In fact, the planet itself is supernatural. So you will see odd things that have no explanation whatsoever, just rock formations floating in the sky. Why? Who cares? It's just there, and it looks cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm just the guy that's got to look at all these pages and be like, cool. I like the gear in the angel's right eye there.
Yeah. Well, she's completely mechanical now. She's only got one organic part left, and it's her other eye.
Yeah.
That's her last.
I know Sci was very sad about that, but
Well, we got to keep it classy. This is this book's all about being classy.
You have to keep going. So stretch goal 10K.
Yeah, I didn't want to cough up original art on this one, and I know everyone's like, dude, you know how much money you'd make by now? It's like, yeah, I do know, but I also have a certain level of I've said it 100 times. I'm doing what I want. It's about money, but it's not all about money on this round. I've got other gigs to make money.
Yeah, I'm doing it my way, and I might be a little more attached to these pages than to anything else that I've done in the past.
Exactly, because I've sold almost all my original art. I don't really have that much of it left. So this is stuff that I'm pretty attached to. Yes, there's 300 pages, so I can cough up some of it, but I don't want to. But I will do it once certain financial hurdles are crossed, as a way of saying thank you and making something available for the people that really, really want it. And, eventually I'll be able to take more commissions on again, and people can get artwork from me anytime. It's just right now I have to be really picky about it. I'm really only doing like side work for other creatives. I'm not so much taking commissions from the public at this point.
Yeah, well, you might be a tad busy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the featured tier is the 3-pack color line art and manga for $85.
Yep.
And it's the manga is going to be paperback, and the other two are hardcover, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, I wanted things to still fit with people's collections well. So the manga edition will it will be 5 by 7.5. It will fit on your shelf with all your other manga just right, and it'll be a thick, heavy book. It's going to be 300-page book, so it'll still be sizable, but it will fit right in with your collection and not throw the scale off. And the hardcover is where it's close to, our standard comic sizes I could get. You enter into the book realm with that size when you're going with hardcovers. So,
that amount of pages, yeah.
It's slightly bigger, but not much. It will still pretty much fit in your long box with your other stuff, or on a bookshelf, or wherever a person decides.
Yeah, well, oversized books, I use a magazine box.
There you go.
So somewhere in the land of short boxes here are filled with hardcovers, trades, magazines, some 2000 AD stuff, heavy metal, and just some stuff that I bought from some of the CG creators overseas, which I like because I get more art that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a side note, but I was listening to the Barton brothers interview with David Finch the other night, and David Finch said he's working on his own personal project right now. He wouldn't give away too many details, but he's drawing it oversized, so every page is drawn on full spread style. Like two 11 by 17s put together, and I was like, what a jerk. Like, I thought I was outdoing everybody. And David Finch has to come in here and be like, yeah, I'm drawing everything oversized. I was like, good Lord. Like, everyone's trying to up the ante right now. So that got me tickled, because I was like, imagine a full book of David Finch artwork printed oversized. Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
I'm like, yeah, I've got from the run that he and his wife did on Wonder Woman. I've got an issue of that. I've got like 3 different copies of that same issue too. And they were like, the A and B cover. But I've got the bloodier of the covers from that issue. I scored a cop. I got it signed by both David and Meredith. So I'm like, I go, okay. When I dump all my Wonder Woman stuff, if my daughter doesn't want it, and she doesn't seem to be that interested in it, because it's not manga. That'll be the one that I keep out of it.
Well, Finch, he's one of those guys where it's hard to cough up his books down the road, because how just interesting they are to look at and how high end the artwork is. Like, he's one of those guys where his style really started to define itself when he was working on Ascension, and it's just been uphill from there. Like, the guy just gets better. Some people decline in age because you get older, it's harder to keep up on certain aspects of things and the time they consume, but that guy just gets better and better and better.
Oh yeah. And then you have the breakdown of the other tiers. The manga edition is $18.
Yep.
The hardcover line art is $30, and the full color hardcover is $45.
Yeah.
And then you've got a line art and color 2-pack. So you can get both hardcovers for $70. Or you can just get all 3 in the featured tier for $85, which seems like it makes more sense to me.
Well, you save a little money that way. It's the price per book is a little cheaper than buying them individually. You're saving like $5 a book, about somewhere in that realm. And the shipping's a tad cheaper too. I tried to give as much incentive as I could, because I'm not offering a bunch of extra tchotchkes and trading cards and stuff like that. I would love to. I can't keep up on all of it. So it gives everyone some option, and it allows things to stay simple enough that I can keep my head wrapped around all of it.
Yeah, well, your days have to be divided into thirds.
Yeah.
First third of the day, I work for other creators. Second third of the day, I'm with the family. Last third of the day, I'm working on my book. And
Pretty
Oh,
much. I mean, it
and then
literally,
a couple hours of sleep in between, and that's that's pretty much it.
yeah, I literally don't even have like scheduled time for sleep. I generally just crash at my desk at some point. Like I literally pass out. And I've told people I don't really sleep anymore. I just black out at some point and wake up later. Like there's rarely a time where I'm like, okay, time for bed. I just wake up the next day somewhere in my home, and that's how that plays out. So, I mean, the problem is I've been living that way for 18 years now, and at some point I want that to do good enough that I can kind of stop doing that. That I can just know I'm working on one book, and I can go to bed and actually sleep like a normal human being and give my family better quality time here. So,
Well, hopefully, when you can do that, your wife doesn't wake up in the middle of the night and scream because you're actually in the bed.
yeah, yeah. It's been some years since we've all had normal bedtimes where I go to bed with everybody else. Like, there's been spats of it, but it's far and few in between at this point in life. So I'll get there eventually. Everything's a battle of will and just being patient and knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel. I that's one thing I always have to remind myself. Like, it's not going to be like this forever. It's just like when you sign up for the military. 4 years of your life are gone, and you just got to get through it. So this is the same way. I just got to bear with it for a while, and eventually things will play into my favor as long as I do my end of the bargain correctly.
Oh, for sure. I mean, everything that I've seen here just looks amazing, and the intricacy of your line work is astounding.
Oh, thank you. It's I've put my entire life into drawing. Like, I never had backup plans. I never had any other options. This is what I want to do with myself. And I've known that ever since I was a 5-year-old, from the first time I had my first few comics and toys and cartoons. Like, this is the stuff I want to be involved in some capacity.
I want to make this.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I know it can be tough when you're not getting the results you want as a creator. But if you really focus and stick with it, it will fall into place. That stuff about like 10,000 hours of drawing, that's true. All of that's true. Like, the time you spend on these things will eventually pay off if you are trying to be better and not just doing things to get them finished and just doing the bare minimum. But if you are truly trying to be better at what you do all the time, you'll get to a point, and I'm at that point where I'm seeing all the artwork I've done and all the comics I've drawn over the years, everything culminating to my own styles finally kind of coming into play here. And I don't have to question how to approach things anymore. I just know what to do. So I'm still learning, don't get me wrong. I'm always learning because I'm never 100% satisfied. I'm usually about 90% satisfied with everything I do. But I think that's just the natural way artists are if they want to be better at what they do.
Well, you've got the double-edged sword because, I mean, you're a musician and an artist. Guitarists and artists are never quite happy with everything they do. They always want to improve. You always want to improve on it. Guitar player, when he goes to lay down tracks, is never happy with the first track. Even if they go back and decide, that first track doesn't sound too bad after 18 hours.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, maybe if I just do this, then this image will speak to me. And, it's one of those things. I've joked around with artists on the show and, on other, panel shows where, I know Jim O'Reilly is never happy with his art. And I go, Jim, I've sent you my address 3 times. You still have not sent me all the art that you hate.
How much do you really hate it?
Right? Yeah. He doesn't hate it enough to send it. He goes, well, I'll sell it to you. I go, yeah, I know. I've got like 3 or 4 pieces.
Oh, and that's the thing, man. It's like, you have to be able to be satisfied, but you also have to be level-headed enough to know there's always room to be better. And
Yeah.
it's a balancing act. And I think people that are too artsy or too emotional are not cut out for it. And that's kind of the thing is like I'm extremely artsy and I put a lot of emotion into the art, but I'm also kind of conservative in my in the way I approach those things in terms of like I'm not going to get too emotionally bent out of shape about the final product if it's damn near perfect to me. You know, I'm not going to self-deprecate, but I'm also not going to pat myself on the back and say it's perfect. You know, it's somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah. You get that happy medium point where you've worked on a piece for X amount of hours, and you either leave it alone and go back the next day and get, bring, fresh eyes back onto it.
Yeah. Well, people have to they have to accept that they're only as good as they are at that moment in time. You'll get better later. You weren't as good 5 years ago, but you're as good as you can be in the moment. And that's about all we can really do. And it's the same idea of only being able to make decisions based off of the information you have right now. You can't tell the future on certain things. You can try to predict, but it's the same idea. You just have to do the best you can do at this moment in time with the knowledge and the skill set you have, and just try to improve as you're moving along. And if you do it enough, you will naturally improve without even realizing that's what's happening. You'll just realize one day, like, the work comes to you easier. It's not as hard to accomplish certain things. And you can see it manifest on the page itself, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I will look forward to definitely backing this before you finish your run. I know it's going in demand, but once I get a couple things out of the way, I definitely want to get on. I mean, it's a 300-page book. As long as it's going to take you to make this, could be as long as it takes me to read it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, everyone's got plenty of time to buy in at their own discretion, and at their own rate at which they can. So yeah, I'm not super worried in that sense. I know time is on my side, and it's also on the consumer side because it's going to take me a little while to get this all done. But I was, once I hit around that halfway mark, I felt comfortable going ahead and putting it out there. And it's been driving me nuts. I've just wanted to do this for so long now that I was like, I just got to jump on it. I can't put this off any longer. Yeah, I've got other gigs in the works, but I'm not going to be happy with myself if I keep putting this off any longer.
Yeah, you have to, get behind it and move forward with it. And I mean, it's
at some point you need money to move things along faster and more efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's where it came into play, was like, if I'm ever going to get this done before I'm, 60 years old, I've got to get some money in the process so that I can start paying out some other people to speed this up for me.
Yeah, it's just the imagery in this book, from what we can see just here on the, on the campaign page, is just astounding, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It's definitely a labor of love, and the reactions I've got to it have been absolutely spectacular. I really appreciate everyone's kind words.
So, I mean, congratulations, because this is just insane.
Thank you. And, for not even being through my first 30 days yet, I can't complain. It's I'm not doing like big dog money, but it's steady, and I'm getting new backers every day for the past, 20, however many days, about 23 days or whatever it's been. So, I've advertised it as a slow burn throughout the years and shown artwork, and I'm kind of going to have to sell it the same way. So it's going to take a little bit, but ultimately I have a lot of faith that this thing will do some pretty good money when it's all said and done. And I know the fan base will come back for more because they will love this book. I have zero doubts that it will be a timeless product.
Oh, for sure. Well, I want to thank you taking your time out on a Friday evening to talk to me about the book. And why don't you let everybody know where they can find you online and follow you? And of course, the link for the book and the campaign is in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching us. And it's also in the live chat.
Yes, thank you. It is. You can find me on Twitter. You can either search for King Toad Incorporated Joe Ball, which is our studio, but you can also do my which is at Comic Art Master 1, the number 1. And you will find me on Twitter there. I'm on Instagram as John Joseph Ball, which is my actual name, which I would like to go by, but it's kind of too late for that. Everyone just knows me as Joe Ball, so I just got to go with both. They'll get used to it the more my work's out there. And those are the two easiest places to find me. I don't really do a whole lot on Facebook. That's more for like family stuff, so I don't really advertise that as much because it's just not a place where I do a whole lot. But yeah, Instagram, John Joseph Ball, Twitter at Comic Art Master 1, and I will gradually put updates on the campaign as well. Right now, it's mostly campaign-related updates. I will show some artwork too, but I'm trying to be careful and not seep out just tons of pages just because I have tons of pages. It's real easy to get to want to just show things to people, but I don't want to spoil half of the book just because I can, Yeah. So I want to keep people enticed. I give them little bits and pieces of what's to come, but I don't want it to be to such a point to where they've already seen half of the book before it even gets in their hands.
Yes, exactly. You gotta
because it is tempting, man. I get tempted every day. Like just throw 6 pages up. I'm like, no, I can't throw 6 up at once. That's just not a good idea. But my heart wants me to do it so bad because I just want people to see what's coming.
Do not peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you once again for coming and hanging out. As soon as we cut the live feed, I'm going to download both the video and the audio of this, and I will upload it onto my podcast platform as soon as it clears. Spotify and the others, I will share and tag the link for the downloadable version, and I will have this up on my Instagram, which is at JokerFan1969, and on Twitter at JokerFan.
Awesome.
And we'll go from there. It's been a pleasure being able to talk to you, Joe. And
hey, likewise, yeah.
And I will definitely look forward to getting this book. It's like everybody's going to be like, what movie are you looking forward to seeing? Death, Death, Death. I haven't heard of that. Well, let me tell you, it's a movie you have to read. But,
pretty much.
But, it's very animated.
It is in a lot of ways,
So thank you once again. All the best. We will keep sharing it out here, and we were live tonight on Outright Geekery, on Twitter through Periscope, and on my YouTube channel. Everybody that tuned in and sat back and watched or listened, thank you very much, and we will see you next time right here on the Creators Outlet.
Thank you. Bye, guys.